go live, I have to do it twice because the technology is not where it is supposed to be. So I set everything up, I time it, and I go live, and it's all gone, and I have to do it again. I have to do it every single time. I don't know why. But these are the challenges that cannot keep us away from building Pioneerlands. I hope everyone is doing great and is excited for what we will discuss today. We have some, of course, outlook for Tesla for the next week. This is the bread and butter, the meat that everyone is looking for. But we also have some important Pioneerlands updates where we will discuss the future because we are making good progress here. I know everyone is a little nervous about where is it, Joe, when do we launch these updated analytics segments. You see it here, Pioneerlands Daily, evolving very, very nicely, but we will have some very cool stuff coming. I'm pretty sure we will actually get there next week with a very comprehensive master plan. I'm going to call it master plan. It's what people are used to. Elon did it nicely. We can do it too. I'll present the master plan and then we go from there. But before we start with Pioneerlands, we go to Tesla because, as you probably know, I had 2 videos last week on it. I think June is going to be very, very decisive. It is very important that we are now on top of our game. And before we start, important, there is a psychological game that is being played with every investor who is long-term into a stock like Tesla. Will be similar with SpaceX, will be similar even with NVIDIA and other key stocks. When you have a thesis and you're waiting for this thesis to unfold and it takes longer because these are transformative technologies, it is not happening when it's supposed to happen and continues to not happen when it's supposed to happen and goes on and on and on. And often when people lose faith and conviction and drop out, that is exactly when it starts to happen in a big way. And I think the odds that the month where we will see real movement on robotaxi, the odds that this month is actually now, not now, tomorrow, June, I think are the highest they have ever been. And so I'm putting on a major bet on this whole situation. Of course, we have to be cautious. We might get a little pullback again. You see here the whole situation with the 445 and then the rejection. You see here the long-term trend. We hit this bottom and now are going up. Very nice line, by the way. And you see that going up. Where is the next bottom here? Probably around 430, 425 or something. And then we might go up. That's on the technical level. But I also think there is a lot of things happening on the robotaxi side. So I covered this in the previous videos, but I just want to repeat that because now we are literally 1 day away from that potentially very decisive moment and time of June 2026, 1 year after robotaxi. Let's see who we have here. Where are my comments? Are the comments on? Oh yeah, chat. Who do we have here on the Tesla side of things? Hello everyone from Droid, P. Giuliano 9000, 490 coming, and that was my thumbnail today. I'm saying it's the third attempt. I said 2 weeks ago, we're going to 490, got 2 little rejections, and I am now thinking we're trying a third time. And as you can see on the chart, I think the time is ready. Austin 4 says good morning, probably from Austin. Good morning back. And Mel Drummer says, hi Joe, would you recommend to buy Tesla or SpaceX at IPO? I have 90,000 euros to invest. I am not a big SpaceX IPO fan to go into the IPO. I think there is just no way it's not overvalued. I think the odds that you buy at IPO and it actually goes up from there short term are high, but there will be a major drop. That is what I think, because the index funds, they are going to gobble it up, driving the stock up. So you might get lucky short term, but it's just going to be too high in my opinion, too much risk. And I think Tesla is a better bet on a 9-month horizon. June looks promising, exactly, waiting for Cybercab launch. Andy Peters says, do we expect Tesla to drop on the week of SpaceX IPO? I believe it will be probably 10% of retail, which rebalance, which means about 4% will sell their shares on that week. That could mean 30% stock drop. I don't agree, Andy, with 30% stock drop. I think you might see a minor dip, 5% or something, but I don't think so. It is too expected. It's too clear. The markets are too liquid and too deep for that to matter, in my opinion. It's very unlikely that we see a major drop. That is what I think. There are over 20 ETFs for SpaceX ready to be approved. It can be best way to make money short term. Yes, but it's going to be a wild ride because it will drop later. So it's going to be a game of chicken. Street Cred Zero says, at this point, I'm convinced that hedge funds and other institutions do things to deliberately troll Tesla traders, especially on lower volume days. Yes, I think so too. And you all know there was like a major rebalancing situation with NVIDIA that crushed my alpha a little bit for this week, but we are still coming out strongly on top. I'm actually very happy with our performance with Pioneer Alpha here. You know that we had a very decent week plus, wait, what is this? Oh, that's ARQ comparison to compare ourselves with Tesla. One of the few weeks where ARC outperformed us last week, but 3.88% up. This is a typical Pioneer Alpha week, so I'm happy with the trading right now. The previous week was bad, the worst week this year, but this week, again, nice alpha, 1.58 over Tesla. So this is continuing to be very strong. And one of the topics today I wanted to just throw at you guys, because this is the Pioneer Academy. You're the elite of Pioneerlands. You know the most about what is happening here. And I'm going to talk a little bit about the master plan, give you a quick insight what I'm working on to present probably next Sunday in a very nicely outlined way that will then go into the analytics or analysis part of Pioneerlands Daily and into the Pioneer Academy, where we are talking about the actual plan, the master plan of Pioneerlands that is now finally coming together. I will give you a quick, brief preview, not very well prepared. This is still raw. That's an insight right into or behind the scenes, because, you know, things are looking pretty good. Everything is going according to plan on Pioneer Alpha, on the Tesla trading. But here is what it is. I do it very quickly and get your feedback. So this will be a strategy session on Pioneerlands, how we actually unite the smartest people in the world who follow Tesla, who follow SpaceX, who follow the AI revolution, who understand the meaning of capital and capital returns, and who think we can do something together here that makes us a little smarter and stronger and more resilient as a civilization that we have to actually build now. So it's 7 steps. I go through the segments very quickly to give you a brief overview. I will do this while I'm also watching, let's put it down here, the comments in case someone says something smart. So the first of the 7 big insights is that AGI changes the fabric of economics. What does that mean? AGI turns intelligence into a compounding infrastructure so that the return frontier moves upward. Very important. The efficient frontier, a very important concept in investments. And what that basically means, what's happening is that there is this old 10% CAGR assumption, right? The old assumption, and you guys are all investors, you know how it is, the old assumption that you make roughly 10% a year in average in equities. And I think this is fundamentally changing. It is fundamentally changing to a 30% CAGR. And I'm not saying that you can invest in an index fund or in the NASDAQ and make 30%, but because a lot of that will be legacy, there will be a 20-year transformation period to clean out these markets. But it's going to be very possible for the pioneers to make 30%. And one indication that I'm probably right about this is, of course, the Pioneer Reserve. Look at since inception, We are up 157% in 2 years and 5 months. 2 years and 5 months. I actually should display the CAGR here too. So that is over 30%, significantly over 30%, because here you see the target and we are already at 131% of our 2026 target. That assumes a 30% CAGR, right? So we are already nearly 100% at our target for 2027, and that target is a 30% target. So in short, and maybe people say, Joe, you just got lucky. It's like, I don't think so. I've done this for quite a while. I know when I'm lucky and when I'm not lucky. I know when it's just happening. So this is something that is very interesting. And that is the central assumption here of the thesis, the first thesis. The first piece of the thesis is 30% is the new 10%, because we will have compounding intelligence. With SpaceX, we're going to space. So in theory, it should be possible that we make 30% a year. I'm not saying you or me, we can make much more. I'm saying in average, this is the new normal for capital returns, okay? If that is true, and it is probably, then we can go into the second big revelation, what's happening. The second big revelation is that all work is gone. Legacy work and legacy jobs are on their way out. Thanks to Tesla for drivers, thanks to SpaceX for all white collar jobs, thanks to Anthropic, OpenAI, and SpaceX AI. They will wipe out all white collar jobs before 2030. I'm absolutely convinced that this will happen. It is very clear. And of course, some people say, well, Joe, whatever, there will be more jobs. Well, there won't be more jobs. There will be maybe more to do, but I wouldn't call them jobs. It will be reality engineering. And what I mean with reality engineering, it's very important what I mean with that. Reality engineering is basically a new thing. Here's the big thesis. Everything that we need to do in the future, and I'm talking about the entire population, I'm talking about the new economy. Maybe you think now I'm crazy, but I'm not crazy, because I'm doing all of this stuff on purpose. I'm having my YouTube channel on purpose. I'm talking to you guys on purpose. The only thing that remains in the future to do, and the future is kind of now, is reality engineering. And what does that mean? It means that we have to understand and learn about reality. For example, and mostly through financial modeling, economic modeling, exactly what we do right here. Let's see, Street Cred Zero says, I disagree on the detail of your thesis. AI enables a more direct compounding of intelligence, but so many human innovations. Wait, so many innovations, including culture, agriculture, these also accelerated it. But Street Cred Zero, I don't understand your point. My point is now we are going into a hyper acceleration, which lifts the efficient frontier of returns. That's my point. Janice says, I'd love to hear some behind the scenes details about the Pioneer Alpha project. Are you managing the whole initiative yourself, or are you leading a team in an orchestration role? Well, Pioneer Alpha is a securitization vehicle in Luxembourg. We have a whole team there. There are regulatory reasons why we need that. We have a board. We have some very experienced people helping with the whole thing that we hired. And there is our attorney. There are 2 board members. And together we are managing this, but I'm the actual portfolio manager and also the owner of the system. So I have full control over it. Not full control, I'm the owner and I'm a board member. But there will be some more people. I can show you some details here on the new website. Let's see if you want. Here is the details. So this is me. You can, well, it's not live yet, but here's me, Joe Buckley. I'm the director and founder of the Pioneer Reserve, which is the actual Luxembourg company. We have Emiliano, who is a very experienced, great guy. He's also with Fundamentals, which is like a company that helps in Luxembourg to be compliant and do all these things. Another bot on with Alexandra, also with fundamentals. And then we have Alexis Tabaray, who's our securities attorneys. And fundamentals, you can go to fundamentals.lu if you want to learn more about them. So they are actually in charge of making sure everything is compliant under Luxembourg regulations. So that's kind of the background here. But let's go back to the Pioneerlands plan. Legacy work is replaced with reality engineering. So this is very important, that in the close future, there won't be any jobs left of any conventional type. Of course, you will have 10% of the people or something still working on these jobs. But the key is that all of us, everyone, should now be involved in reality engineering, because it's the only remaining way of generating value. And what does it mean? It means we have to understand reality, reimagine reality, and then we have to build or bet on reality, which is either engaging ourselves in building something like Elon does, or investing in transformative companies that we analyze to change the world the most, or the universe at this point. Now, this is very profound, because it means a fundamental transformation of everything, of education, of work, of everything. And I'm not going to reveal all the other theses, but that's basically the two core theses that I'm working on right now to explain this with a model. What does it actually mean that we can get to 30% return? And what does it mean that everyone is now a reality engineer? Everyone can now get employed by us, for example, to analyze trends like robotics, like space, like everything Pioneer Alpha does, in a much more professionalized way. And the value we can generate from that is so high just by understanding it and betting on it, or getting involved in the engineering of it, that it replaces the entire economy. So it is pretty profound, this whole situation. And I hope to hammer this out a little bit more, and then it goes on. But I'm not going to reveal all the details. So that is why I'm always distracted here and cannot only talk about Tesla and SpaceX. But let's see. We will have a very nice publication on it here on Pioneerlands Daily. By the way, Pioneerlands Daily, you guys have probably heard this was a little lost between the news, but Tesla has self-certified Cybercab as level 4 autonomy under new Texas law. So I think that happened on Friday. The new Texas law came out and was actually allowed Tesla to self-certify level 4 autonomy. And that is very important, because it might have implications on the launch of Cybercab in June. This is a very important little development. So what else is going on? We also know that here we see a lot of new Cybercabs. This was a beautiful little arts image. But Joe Tegtmeyer also covered the latest release. There's a lot of SpaceX, of course, here. But he covered the latest crazy release of the Cybercabs on Friday. Let's see. Where we see this is accelerating. Wow, so much SpaceX here. Where's this latest post? What is going on? This is all May 29th. It's a lot of posts. You guys have probably seen this. Wow, why is there so much SpaceX? Here, that post, I covered this before, but this is very, very important that we see basically all these released. And these are all indications. When you actually sum this all up, where are all these Cybercabs going? They are being deployed all over the place in all kinds of different cities across the United States. They're driving around driverless. And all of this is creating a climactic thing probably in June. And you also saw probably the whole situation with the World Cup coming. And that this is probably going to be quite interesting. Mid of June, so in 2 weeks, is a very important potential inflection point. So you understand how it works. We have to apply probabilistic approaches here to bet on when these things actually go live. But it's really accumulating here. And I do think if it goes live, or when it goes live, that this will be a major soft catalyst. So it's not going to be completely transformative. Let's adjust the light. But it's going to be a pretty big deal that day. And I think that's what I'm betting on when you look at the Tesla share price. You know, from here 10% up and you are at 490. It is that simple. Do we have any more chats here? Is the chat frozen again? Let's go directly to YouTube so I can see my chat. So, what do you guys think? What is your sentiment out there? What do you think about the situation in June? Are we going into an exponential boost or not? That is the question. Let's see if I see the comments better here. There are over 20 ETFs for SpaceX ready to be approved. It could be the best way to make money short term. Yeah, let's see about that. So Janus GS, what do you think about Pioneer Alpha, the thesis? Any comments on that? What is that? Frost says, no, we are still, Frost 1349 says, no, we are still in the slowly part. Well, do you think the slowly part is over in June, or do you think it's going to go on until December? I mean, we had this discussion with Herbert and CERN about potential inflection points and 15,000 cyber caps out there. So I actually think June could be very interesting. It is crucial to actually time these things effectively, because if you can time it. Austin 4 says, Cybercap finally takes off vertically by June 15th. That's a strong thesis, and we will see. You take on the wireless chargers and a reveal soon. Relevant? I don't think this is relevant. We have seen a lot of infrastructure preparation, and I think that is all that matters. I don't think that the chargers will be in any way something to hold us back. You also saw probably all these posts here of the technical analysts. I mean, you can't rely on that on a month-to-month basis, but it's a good long-term point that we see this base-forming behavior of Tesla stock, right? Everyone who's a little bit an experienced investor with Tesla understands how it goes. This was the 2020 transformation, 5 years sideways, boom. 5 years sideways, boom. So, we know how the stock behaves. The market always doubts it to the very last point, and then it transforms. And I know back then in 2020 and 2019, it was exactly the same sentiment that people gave up on it after this immense run back down here. I think 2013 was it? Yeah, 13, 14. And then it went sideways for literally 6 years. And now we've gone sideways for a long time. And you know that everything is now converging. So that is kind of the situation. You also see these little Critical posts, the PE ratio between the Mag 7, I don't even know if that's still true with NVIDIA, probably down. But sure, Tesla looks overvalued on that level, but none of these other guys have something like Tesla coming up, the double whammy of Optimus and Cybercap. Frost asks question, if robotaxis get delayed for whatever reason, can they hide the expense of the caps as inventory? I don't think so, to be honest. That's why I also think it will not be delayed. A delay of Cybercap operation would clearly be not that amazing for Tesla. And that is also why I believe why is there always these? That's why I believe that the delay will actually not happen because what you see is that churning out these cybercaps like crazy. And to your point, no, these are CapEx items. You cannot remove them because this is clearly not inventory. You're not going to sell them, so it's not inventory, so it will be CapEx in my opinion, and there's no way of getting rid of it. So this is inevitable in my opinion. This is inevitable. And here is another interesting thesis, by the way, that people really try to create some FOMO. SpaceX IPO is a real big storm for markets. This could turn into the biggest insider cash out in market history. Well, that's for sure, but that doesn't mean it's bad. SpaceX is expected to go public on June 12th at a valuation of 1.75 to 2 trillion. That would instantly make it larger than Microsoft. What? What are you talking about? This is stupid. Microsoft? Are you stupid? These people have no idea. Microsoft market cap is definitely more than 2 trillion. Unless I'm very misinformed. Yeah, 3.3 trillion. So these people clearly don't know what they're talking about. There you have it. Like, this would make it bigger than Microsoft. What a loser. What is this? Stupid. Okay. Insiders currently own 95% of all shares. The public float is only 5%. Is that even true? I think it's a little bit more. And insiders are sitting on 1.66 trillion of paper wealth that cannot currently be sold. Most IPO lock insiders up for 180 days, blah, blah. This is all blah, blah, blah. Pretty stupid stuff. So there's a lot of FOMO going on. Alexandra is saying, because there's a lot of questions if there will be a lot of selling and SpaceX going down. I think this is all BS. You don't do that as insiders. You're smart. This is not a little scam company. This is very serious for people. So I would forget all these little tricks. You cannot get ahead of that. I think the market is pretty transparent. I think there is no big distortion happening. But what will be happening is that there is a pretty high level of how can I have 328 people watching here and here only 250? This is weird. Oh no, I have an echo. How can I have three this out? So I think what is going to happen with the SpaceX IPO, it's very simple. This goes up because the hype is very high. And then there will be no rug pull. There will be no insider selling. This is all stupid. But what will happen is, similar to Tesla in Q1, the catalyst for SpaceX will be diminishing. In the beginning, it's excitement, all kinds of stuff. But can SpaceX deliver enough catalyst to keep the stock up while it's actually building and backfilling the actual cash flows that it's promising? They will take until late 2027 to really become significant, even in the fastest orbital AI build-out scenario. So that is the problem. You have a lot of air gaps between June 12th this year and whenever orbital AI really gets big. And in these situations, different from Tesla, you need to hold up your super high valuation that's speculative and speculating on the future throughout a long period of time, probably 24 months before you see substantive cash flow improvements. Because one thing is also clear, Starlink is great, but Starlink cannot backfill that level of expectations. So it's going to be interesting. Of course, there will be more AI deals on Colossus, for example. That's 15 billion from Anthropic. There could be another 15 billion, but that's just revenue. And does it really support a $2 trillion valuation? I have my doubts. And that is why I believe there is no way around the fact that SpaceX 9 months after IPO will probably be lower, or at least in between at some point, which is why I'm waiting. I'm much more happy to hold Tesla shares because I think Tesla is closer to an inflection point and we understand these forcing functions very, very well. So what else do we have here? Wireless chargers we had. So many people who are not investors, says the Pervin. So many people who are not investors telling me they will buy SpaceX IPO. It looks very hyped. Convinced Joe's right and that we will get an opportunity to buy lower in 6 months once lockups end. Exactly, that's what I think too. Austin 4 says, I've owned and run a production line. Once you start, and Tesla has started Cybercab, you have to ship and put them into service. Totally agree. Austin 4 is an experienced production line owner and operator. So that's my thesis from the very onset that I said there is no way this is not directly linked into scaling and deployment. Acrimag 21 says, Joe, the market seems will go down big time. Let's put this here. We go big time after both IPOs from OpenAI and SpaceX. Is it good strategy to pull out of the market until October, November once we hit all-time highs, hopefully before it collapses? Well, you have to make a distinction between the stocks, SpaceX and OpenAI, and the actual market. I do not think that you can link a market crash or correction directly to these two IPOs. I don't think so. So I would be very cautious about that. But when it comes to the actual stocks, I have to look into OpenAI. I don't know what the exact pricing will be, but on SpaceX, I'm pretty sure, yes, that we will see a problem as discussed. We have here... Elon says the robotaxi rollout will be painfully slow first, then rapid scaling. How long is slow on Elon time? Considering 3 years is eternity to him, slow might mean a few months. Well, you shouldn't forget that we are already 2 months in. Exactly. So also by Tesla and automotive standards, scaling this to 20,000 this year is painfully slow. This is literally slower than the Cybertruck, which was already painfully slow. 8989 Skyline asks, how can we invest in your bond offering in the USA if we are not an accredited investor? You can't. You cannot right now. You have to be an accredited investor. But you should check if you are actually an accredited investor, because most people actually are without knowing it. So look, you can just Google it, accredited investor criteria, and there you can see it. It's not totally crazy stuff. Spare time 4914. I think the real bottlenecks are approvals from various states and cities, and Tesla trying to make it as safe as possible as the media jumps on any negative Tesla stories. I don't think the approvals in the cities are a bottleneck. I said this before. But I think Tesla, yes, trying to make it as safe as possible. I agree. They don't want any hiccups. Atmo Dude, hi from Belgium. Thanks for doing this, Joe. It's a pleasure. Hello to Belgium. Are you in the Flemish part or in the Wallonian part? Austin 4, is it possible Tesla to ship 5,000 Cybercabs to 500 per city before flipping the switch to full on? No, that's not their plan. I think they're going to ship 1,000 Cybercabs or something. They could easily ship 1,000 before they flip it on. But I think they already shipped 1,000 when you do the math. I think they're approaching now 1,000 cyber caps, and they will cross the 1,000 cyber cap production line in June when you actually sum it all up. Don't need them to be put in service, working out all manufacturing kinks, cyber caps for testing now. Well, I think the manufacturing kinks have been worked out. They are now approaching 1,000. They're probably crossing 2,000 in July. I think at that point, the kinks are, the important kinks are worked out. That's my theory on CyberCap. What's the latest on this year? No big movement. We have 700 robo-taxis in total that have been ever deployed, not currently active. We have 39 unsupervised, so nothing happening here, but I'm not expecting it now to happen. I think this thing is not super accurate anyway, but I do think June will be an important month. And you guys have to understand, when you're trading, when you're generating alpha, understanding something like that and making a bet that actually pays off in a reasonably narrow window, which is June, and I assume mid of June, by the way, that is the hot spot. That could be very, very good. What is that? Blue Origin. They had a little bit of a problem. I hope you all saw. Is that the video? No, that is not the video. Here, this is the video of the Blue Origin disaster. That was quite bad. This is all the aftermath of that. That was a huge explosion, in case you guys didn't see that. Blue Origin explosion. That was a very important data point, in case you didn't see this. Look at this. This was like a major little explosion. Of course, I'm not happy about that. It's always bad when we have setbacks like this, but it's definitely good for SpaceX, because it just validates again, no competition, even close. Because do you want to sit on that rocket? No. Do you want your satellite to sit on this rocket? No. This just shows you how difficult that is. And some people said SpaceX also will experience these things. I'm not sure. Look at SpaceX track record. When was the last time something blew up like this? Long time for SpaceX. I think they're operating on a totally different level, and that is part of their strength. Austin, for us, are you doing your Tesla puts for 4 weeks or to the end of June? Well, the way I'm dealing with the put strategy, right? If you look at the options chain, for example, right here, and you look at, I'm basically aiming, what is that? July. I'm aiming at, I have some with June 26, which is a long time from here, but I'm now much more invested. I'm above 50% of my allocation on this trade. And when you look at it, you get massive amounts of money. I have 450s, for example, that pay you $27. Let that sink in. So you're selling 450 puts. I sold 450, 440, and 435. That's what I have. I think some 430. So 450 pays you $27. Do the math. So the break-even point is at 423. So as long as I'm staying over 423, I'm good. If I go over 450, I keep the $27. Even here, the 440 is $21. That's a very good deal. You're talking about 419. That's my break-even point. So as long as it stays over 419, I'm making money. I also have a few shorter running, right? Because you understand the game. If this goes to 490, they are hanging out there. Your stock option is not that great. So if you go to June 19th, also pretty good deal. I have a bunch here too. I think 440s. 440s for June 19th. $18. That's a lot of money. You know, do the math. That's a lot of money. If you sell 10, so that's 1,800. So it's 18,000 for 10. If you sell 100, that's 180,000 bucks you make. So, of course, you have to watch your margin. You understand the whole game. And if you sell at the money or slightly in the money short puts, you have to be cautious and pull the plug. When something bad happens, you have to really watch the market. I don't think anything can happen to Tesla specifically, but something can always happen to the market. Richie says, is there anything preventing Elon from announcing the Tesla SpaceX merger very quickly? A week or two after IPO, Elon tends to move quickly. Would he have to wait until the Cursor buyout? No, I think the Cursor buyout would be independent of it. The risks are very simple why Elon probably cannot rush it too much. First of all, this is a major operation, right? Don't think this merger is easy. And second, I don't think Elon can just announce it right after the IPO because there is disclosure requirements for an IPO. If he announces it a week later or 2 weeks later, it's clear that he knew it and he didn't disclose it for IPO. So I think there must be some distance, probably a few months. He could only announce intent, still needs votes on the Tesla side. That is correct. Of course. I mean, this is a major operation. He needs to secure the votes. It would be for this year, November shareholder meeting. And he has to be cautious with IPO disclosures. So I don't think he can announce it right after. Doug Fresh asks, would it be safe to do a Tesla 1000 strike covered call for a year out? I mean, it's definitely not safe. I don't want to lose the stock, but maybe still collect a little premium in the meantime. I don't like long-term covered calls. I mean, what are you even going to get for that? I think that's not, I would not do that. I don't like it. Do you let your short puts get assigned? Or if not, why do you include your break even as if you are? No, I never get assigned anything. I don't want to get assigned. What do you mean I include my break even? I'm just doing math. The break even points are so important because they tell you, that's how I think about options. You have to be very clear on your scenarios and your break points. And my break even point, this is just for my trading. I need to understand how I make money and under what circumstances I make money or lose money. That's why, that's all I'm doing. How do taxes work with your put strategy? Where is your taxable base? I'm curious since I started doing options trading recently. I do not live in the US. It's very simple. This is all income. You're just being taxed on income. If you sell, if I'm selling the 440 short put and keep the 18 bucks, so I'm selling 10, I make 18,000 bucks. You made 18,000 of short term capital gains income. So there's no cost basis. Your cost basis is nothing because you're just selling these things without having them. Your cost basis is zero and your gain is whatever you keep and your loss is whatever you have to put in to buy it back. So it's very simple. The long-term covered calls are profitable when you know by to close them at the right time. Yes. Is SpaceX IPO lockout period 180 days? They are changing this. You mean the lockup period? No, they're changing it down. It's much shorter, I think. And it might be complicated for depending on the share class and everything. So that is going to be much more complex. Oh, it's already late. I have to wrap it up in a second. Any remaining questions here? What's going on? Do we have more questions? What's the latest here? Soya Merritt shares this cyber cap testing Pennsylvania. Is that from today? May 31st, 5:19 p.m. Looks like from today. This is Pennsylvania. Look at this. Look at these three beauties in Pennsylvania. Even with the, this is also interesting. They have these caps now on the hubs. So this is all getting very, very ready for prime time. What's your Tesla strategy pre and post SpaceX IPO? I don't even pay attention too much to the IPO. I do not expect major moves for Tesla. I do think if SpaceX IPO goes very well, it could have a magnet effect towards its own market cap and drag Tesla towards its market cap. So if anything, probabilistically, I think SpaceX is probabilistically, directionally positive for Tesla post IPO if it goes up a lot, which I do think it will. And I do think there will be a week or 2 weeks of additional pull after IPO up. But I'm not totally sure. That's why I'm not buying it. And it's too much of a roller coaster in the beginning. I don't like gambling. I like alpha. That is what it is. Ivan Torellasa is asking, to ask your tech space. I understand Pioneer is a Luxembourg-based company. That's a complicated question. So on Pioneer Alpha, on the bonds, that's very simple. You put in money. If the investors who put in money in the bonds, that's their base, right? If you put in $1 million, that's your base. And if it goes up, the differential is your gain. And depending where you live in the European Union, this is long-term capital gains. In the United States, it's probably counted as income, but deferred income tax with some phantom tax per year. This is a little complicated to explain, but it's very tax efficient. And for me, my setup is a little different. So I don't care too much about these trading gains because it's institutional what I'm doing, and we have a different tax framework there. So yeah, if you do any kind of put strategy, you're probably going to be worse off than long-term holders, of course, on the tax level. But if you look at the alpha you can generate, if you know how to do it, it probably overrides the tax disadvantage on your personal thing. For Pioneer bonds, especially for Europeans, this is just a very good deal because on the tax side, because it's just long-term capital gains. While I can trade like crazy for you guys, for the investors. You don't have to pay taxes. You get long-term capital gains for Europeans. For Americans, you get deferred income taxable, because it's a bond. It's effectively interest income, but only at the end, after 3 years. So in between in the 3 years, you're compounding. What do you think about selling long puts? You mean selling long puts? You mean selling puts? Oh, long expiration puts. December 2028 puts for price 900 get for. Yeah, Arnold, I don't like it too much because, first of all, you get assigned these things, right? As a rule of thumb, if you sell puts, you can get assigned very quickly, very rapidly if you have no premium in there. The main protection against getting assigned is premium, because people who want to assign and put it to you, the stocks, they don't want to pay the premium. So as long as there's a big differential beyond the intrinsic value, you're not getting assigned. But these super deep in the money, long-term ones, you can get assigned. That's just annoying. And what I like about puts is the free money. I like the probabilistic advantage of short puts, that they basically are the reverse of long calls, that you don't have to pay for the premium. They pay you for the premium. So if you do very long-term, it's less attractive. If you deep in the money, less attractive. Do you know what the expected stock price for Space is when it does IPO? No, I just know the market cap. Eliel is asking, are you not losing money if you buy back a 450 short put when Tesla is at 425 shortly before they expire, even if it's above your break-even point? No, I'm not losing money. If you sell a 450 for, let's say, $30 and you then buy it back for $25 because it's 425, 2 hours before expiration, of course you made money. You can keep $5. You get the premium and you buy it back. And if it's lower when you buy it back, you win. The best way to get used to this is just do it cautiously. You just take one single contract and just do it and you get a feel for it. How much of a tax bill will Elon have? And if he is locked in with SpaceX shares, Well, Elon, it depends when. Elon will have all kinds of tax bills that are pretty serious. Elon will not have any tax bill at the IPO because you're not realizing any gains. It doesn't matter if you, unless he gets assigned some new options or something. If you didn't have the margin in your account to sell uncovered puts on Tesla, would you use put credit spreads? Well, I'm always using, I'm always, or in aggressive phases like this, I'm always selling more puts than my margin allows. So I have to do some spreads. I have to buy some long puts way out of the money. So at 380, 370, a week out, I'm buying always like a few hundred of these puts. And that takes care of the margin issues. Why do you expect SpaceX price not to increase a lot once added a large indexes when Tesla joined? No, I do think, Richie, that SpaceX will benefit from that, but that will happen very shortly thereafter. So that's why I'm saying after the IPO, it probably keeps going up for a few weeks and then the problem starts. Selling puts is a great way to profit when you have plenty of cash available. Well, very important. You can be 100% invested in stocks and still have significant margin left over, right? If you're 100% invested in stock in Tesla, for example, often you get, for 50 or 60% of that still available in margin, depending on your broker. Is Elon deadline to hit his $1 trillion package incentives? End of 2030. No, Doug. I think there is no time limit on this. I don't think there's a time limit on this. He has like plenty of time for this. BC Jones says, Joe, you're one of my most favorite sauerkrauts. I love sauerkrauts, but yeah, technically I'm a kraut. So thank you, BC Jones. It's very nice. 45 days and longer slightly in the money puts and calls have saved my bacon lately. In the money puts and calls, like you mean short or not short? Gamma hasn't taken off on those, so one can roll more easily. So many opportunities to short those lately. Yes, I agree. Be cautious. Be cautious. I'm definitely not shorting calls. I'm not going covered calls at all right now. Not in the setup. If we go to 490, and there is, by the way, if CyberCap starts scaling, I don't think we see a repricing. I think we go up and then these Tesla people will stop scaling again. So I think it's very good then to potentially sell covered calls or non-covered calls, naked short calls, whatever. Once we are up there, then comes the next disappointment, in my opinion. But you have to be cautious because there will be coming the point in time this year where there is no disappointment and the stock goes straight to 600, 700, 800 and higher. But I don't think that's happening now. I think June will be another disappointment. It will be a rally. We go to 490 and then we get disappointed again. That's what I think. That's how I'm going to play it. Are you expecting Tesla and SpaceX to trade in lockstep? I wouldn't say in super lockstep, but I do think there will be some correlation and there will be a magnet effect of Tesla getting pulled towards the market cap of SpaceX because of the merger talk. And of course, if then SpaceX falls, we have to be expecting some pressure on Tesla. Do you buy back when you can keep 75% of your option, or do you let option expire to collect 100%? That's a very complicated question. But every time my trade goes the way I want it to go, I tend to hold to the last day. On the last day, I often cover before it expires for tactical reasons. So, but these are pennies, just little pennies. Joe, will you be on Peggy YouTube again? I think yes. I think I will be on Peggy tomorrow. But then Peggy publishes it probably 2 days later or something. So maybe expected Wednesday or Thursday. Okay, I have to run. But it was a pleasure, as always. June is coming. This is going to be an important, exciting month. So buckle up. Meditation Mindless says, I sold some of my Tesla and bought faster horses that paid off really well. Yeah, if you know which horses are faster, that always pays very well. You just have to be betting on the right horse. And I think June will be a good horse riding month for Tesla. So I hope everyone knows more. What is this? This is so irritating. Oh my God. Brian Johnson, my feed. And yeah, have a beautiful Sunday all across the world, from Belgium to Austin to California to Florida to Germany, wherever you are. And I see you guys tomorrow. Until then, let's make this big. The last shot. See you guys tomorrow. Bye bye.